This is why we're really here to talk about private channels and teams. So this was a highly anticipated feature. Microsoft delayed it like 6 times. And I think you'll understand why when we dive in, why it's such a big deal. Um, and yeah, so let's talk about it. I have a small slide deck here. It's like 5 slides, but I'll focus on, an actual real life scenario in Microsoft Teams. All right. So overview. What are private channels and teams? They're basically a way to create a private area within Teams, a private channel, if you will. If that's what they're called, private channel, that is only accessible for a subset of the users that are in the team. So let's say you have a project team that included your project manager, um, you know, uh, uh, team members from different business units, that kind of thing. But you wanted to organize things like contracts or invoicing or any other legal documentation, whatever it is. And that information is something that you only want a subset of your users to see. This is a perfect scenario for private channels. It's also a key feature in Slack. And as you probably know, Teams is Microsoft's answer to Slack, although we now have more daily users in Teams than Slack does. This was something that was preventing a lot adoption, even with organizations that are fully licensed for Office 365 or Microsoft 365 from adopting Teams. So you can see why the need is there. So specifically, if you need a subset of your users. And the problem up until now is if you wanted to use Teams as your collaboration space, um, and uh, and you had an area that was private, your only choice was really, I mean, there's some hacks, but your only choice is to create another team, which isn't really good because, as you know, there's only so much space on your Teams client for the number of teams that you can see. So that list of teams can get really big and hard to find things. So this is a really big feature, and I think it's so far we're pretty happy with it. So um, some limits I wanted to just mention. Each team can have 30 private channels, and each private channel can have 250 members. Okay, so prior to the private channel release, and by the way, I should mention, I am not certain that all tenants have private channels released yet. I believe they do, but they could be rolling some things out. Also, if you're on a GCC or GCC High, which is a government tenant, you probably don't have it either. I'm not sure if that applies to anyone there. So up until the private channel release, there was a 200 channel limit per team. That's been increased now to 200 standard channels plus 30 private channels. Does that make sense? I think it probably does. Private channels support connectors and tabs except for Stream Planner and Forms, but that stuff is coming. So it's basically like a regular channel except for those couple apps. So just a note on that. All right. Question?
Matt,
Yeah.
quick question actually. We have some clients that are GCC clients. Not sure if private channels is available in Teams for them, or if we have any information on that.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's there yet. Okay. We can definitely find out though. All right, this is a really cool kind of matrix that you can use within your organization to decide or determine when you should use private channel. So basically at the top it says, is there already a team that has these people as team members? If the answer is yes, go to the next question. Does this work need to be kept private from others? Yes. Are there multiple distinct topics to discuss? Yes. Then it says create a private channel in an existing team, or consider creating a dedicated private channel for each topic. So basically you can use this kind of rubric. I don't know, is that the right word? Is this rubric? I think it is. As a tool to determine what you should do when in each scenario. So we'll make this available to you after the webinar. I think it's really useful. Okay, so I know that some folks are probably thinking, I wonder if I can if I can convert an existing public channel to a private or a standard channel to a private channel and vice versa. The answer is no. You cannot do that. You can't do it with PowerShell, and you can't do it through the UI. Okay, so that's kind of unfortunate, and I'll explain why that is on the next slide. I have a note down here. When a private channel is created, it is linked to the parent team and can't be moved to a different team. So again, that's another item that you'll have to keep in mind because it's using a subset of the users that are in the team. So if you were to move the private channel to another team, then it would lose. There's kind of like a loose parent-child relationship there, so or kind of a cascading permissions, if you will. So yeah, that's that. All right, so what happens when you create a private channel? This was, frankly, where I was most surprised. When you create a new private channel, Microsoft's actually creating a brand new site collection for you in your tenant automatically. So that tenant is provisioned almost instantly, and I will actually do one in a second. I think it takes about 2 seconds to create the new site or the new private channel site in the background. So it's using a new SharePoint template called Team Channel, which is essentially a empty SharePoint site or an empty team site with really base functionality. It doesn't have a lot in it. It's really meant just for a document repository. Now it can be augmented, so you can add, you can go take that private channel and add SharePoint lists and pages and whatever you want to it. But by default, it's really meant for file storage for that private channel. So because of this architecture where we're creating new site collections, Microsoft increased the site collection limit on your tenant from 500,000 to 2 million in order to support private channels. As you can imagine, if some organizations keep the number of their teams small, but have a lot of private channels, we're going to grow exponentially on the number of site collections that we have. Okay. And the other thing I'll note is that the SharePoint site that's dynamically created when the new private channel is created has a naming convention called team name dash channel name. So that's pretty much fixed, and that indicates the relationship between the channel and the team.
So you got team and teams, which really is a group, which is a site collection.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the ability to create 30 new private channels, which are each individual site collections. So you could have, for one team, potentially up to 31 site collections per team. Am I right? Get that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
All right. I think there's some questions in there. Do you want to field those for me, Daniel? So yeah,
Let me take a look. Sure. Okay. Okay, a couple good questions here. One is in regards to HIPAA requirements for compliance around Teams. Is Teams able to meet HIPAA requirements? And I don't know if you know the answer to that. We might have to. I wonder if Brian knows. So.
Yeah, I don't know if Teams necessarily has that built in, but it would be something in the Security and Compliance Center that there's probably some functionality or compliance rules there around, like doing things like personal identifiable information or something like that to prevent that content from being added, or at minimum notifying a compliance manager.
I'm gonna say the answer is yes, because it falls within Office 365, and that is already going to be HIPAA compliant. With security compliance, there's things you can do with that, because all the data, really, files and everything else, is going to live in in SharePoint or in Teams. If it's chat stuff, it should be good. And so let me see. Actually, Michelle is. Why don't you just chime in, Michelle? You can just go off mute and just say something.
I just like to do my research first. So I'm looking at a couple different articles, and it does look like it can, because of Office 365, tick those HIPAA HIPAA compliant checkboxes. So you
Right.
should be able
That's what I
to
thought.
use Teams with that. It does also, you do have the ability to connect with Microsoft and make sure that your plan that is covering all of your HIPAA security measures does include Teams, and they can help you with that as well.
Cool. So I think that answers that question. Thanks, Dave, for that question. Keith's got a question about security groups. So if we add a security group to Teams, does that count toward 250 limit? Actually, Matt, can you clarify how and when you're doing this, actually clarify when you're creating a private channel,
Yeah.
how you actually manage membership there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
for all our sake.
Let's do that right now. So I have teams here. I'm in a demo interface, and I created a new team called Tech Talks. And I'm just going to go through first and show you what the lifecycle management options are for creating private channels. So I'm going to go and click Manage Team and go to Settings and Member Permissions. So really, the only option that was added here was this allow members to create private channels. It's checkbox on or off. Okay. Obviously, owners will be able to create private channels. There's guests, meaning people outside of your organization using Azure B2B or external sharing, cannot create private channels, and that is not supported. So really, the only option we have here is allowing members to create private channels, either off or on. Okay, so let's just do that. Okay, and so how to create a private channel? Let's do one real quick. So I'm going to add a channel, and let's call it legal. I can add a description, private channel for legal documents. Okay. My option here is who should privacy, standard or private. Pretty simple. Let's go with private and click next. Adding the channel, the site is already created. There's already a SharePoint site created using the template that I talked about earlier. Now, how do I add my members? Let's just add Michelle and Daniel. Click add. All right.
So here you can actually add a group, correct?
I
I don't
don't
know if you have a group in your demo
think
environment.
so. Let's see. No, it's only by user
For the channels.
for the channels. Now you can when the site is created, you can change if you're an owner. It's a SharePoint site, so you can change the permissions through SharePoint. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that. I'd set that through here. So if you're using now, you can if you had like an existing group, you can go and just add that on the SharePoint site, but not through the UI, not through the Teams UI. Okay. And you have to understand kind of the rationale behind that is the security configuration for your team is based on an Office 365 group. So you're almost adding another group inside of a group, which is a little strange and hard to manage. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it.
So let me just clarify and make sure I'm saying this correctly. You can add a group to a team, but you cannot add a group to a private channel. So I hope that answers the question there, Keith, for you.
Okay.
Keith just said, oh wait, never mind. Never mind. Okay. Moving on.
Okay, was there another question? Are we good to move on?
We're good to move on.
So, by the way, I can designate Michelle as an owner here, and then as an owner of the channel, she can add additional members to the channel and make changes to the channel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Done. And my channel has a little padlock icon to designate it or to indicate that it's a private channel. Okay, so then it's already here, so I can add and I can tag Michelle. How's it going with the contract? Let Daniel know when it's ready for. All right, so we can have our conversation there. So let's go to the Files tab. And obviously there's nothing in here. It's just an empty library on this legal channel. And really what I want to do is show you the relationship between SharePoint Teams and SharePoint, and specifically the SharePoint site that was created dynamically when we created the private channel. So let's open in SharePoint. Oh, and I think I need to switch tenants here real quick. Sorry. ClearNet. Dev. All right. So you'll notice first the URL here, as I mentioned in the slide deck. Our channel is called /sites Tech Talks, which is the name of the channel. I'm sorry, the name of the team dash the name of the channel. Okay, so that just happens automatically. I don't have any control over that. Okay, we also have an indication here. This folder is connected to a channel in Microsoft Teams. So that's to designate that and to remind everyone that that this channel is specifically, or this document library is associated specifically with that private channel in Teams. Again, this is an empty site. There's nothing really in here aside from the document library and probably one other style library and form templates. There's nothing else in the site. So it's really a bare bones SharePoint site. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't build something out here and have like a private area or a collaboration space with lists and libraries, and then you can lists or additional libraries and even add tabs to a custom list in that Teams channel. So it's just, and for obvious reasons, just because you saw how fast that SharePoint site collection was created behind the scenes when the channel was created, Microsoft decided to keep it really lightweight. Okay. All right. So let's see. Going back here, did you have something, Daniel?
Yeah, can you show us what the permissions look like in that SharePoint site?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
I mean, I know I'm pretty sure what it looks like, but just wanted to explicitly show.
Okay, so you have Tech Talks. You're automatically created SharePoint groups with owners, members, and visitors. The owners should be Global Admin and Michelle, because I designated Michelle as an owner. And I'm the creator, so I'm automatically the owner of that site. And then Daniel, you should be in here as a member.
Got it.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting that they did it that way. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
So pretty straightforward. It was a little bit different than what I expected. I was expecting when private channels were first announced, I was not expecting a separate site collection. I was expecting another folder, as you know, with a standard channel. And maybe some of you don't know this, so let's just show you that real quick. A standard channel. Let's just create a standard channel real quick. Add channel, and we'll call it December topic standard channel. So when a standard channel is created, it's actually creating a folder in the document library in the team site associated with the channel. So if I go into files, you'll see two folders here. You'll see a general folder, and you'll see a December topic. Or actually, sorry, I'm in that channel. Let's go to SharePoint and go to the top level document library. So you should see a general folder and a December topic folder. So I was kind of I was assuming that Microsoft was going to go with unique permissions on the folder, but it really makes more sense just to have, for security reasons, to have it siloed and have it as a separate site collection. So I understand why they did it that way. And to be honest, the unique permissions idea with folders is still really the security on the SharePoint side, at least. The setting security at a folder level is kind of a little kludgy, or the UI is not very good. So I understand why they did it that way. All right. So let's see. I think that's really all I have on private channels. I am liking the feature. I think it's going to reduce the number of teams that you'll need to have because, as I said earlier, the only option up until now, if you had to use a subset of users, is just to create another team. So this will allow you to have even an a company-wide or organization-wide team and then private channels for subsets of users within there. So it really reduces the number of teams that you need to have, which is going to be a huge improvement in kind of the user experience using the Teams desktop app. So does that make sense to you, Daniel?
Yeah. Just one thing I'm thinking about is, how we actually create architecture in Teams. Um, driving from an actual use case where, let's say we've got, creating a new team for, I don't know, each office, let's call it that. And then within that office, you have certain subset of people that need to access certain content. And so you create a private channel. So the good news is that you can do that within your team. The bad news, I think, is that you can't add a group to a channel to then sort of security trim those things, because you got a lot of people. If you have like multiple offices around everywhere, then you've got those Active Directory security groups that are being applied that doesn't apply to the private channel, which kind of stinks. I wonder if that's going to change from Microsoft, because
Yeah.
it's kind of a limitation.
Oh, that's interesting because
I don't see why they would. I don't see why they would do that, because if you think about it, you're just creating a site collection. You should be able to add a group to that, right?
Well,
So
what I'd be interested in seeing, and I don't know if I necessarily want to do this here, although we probably could, is well, actually, I don't know if we're set up to do it. Is adding a existing security group in SharePoint and then testing a user within that group to see if they see the private channel or can access the private channel in Teams.
we can do that in our tenant.
So
We'll do that in our
we'll have to
environment.
test that scenario. We haven't actually tested that, but that's a really good point. Good question. Thanks.
Okay, so we got another question here.
Yeah.
Yeah, bummed. Same here, dude. Sorry. Yeah, Keith says he's bummed about that limitation. I'm already reading your mind. Well, not really reading mine. Oh, and then one other question I had was, okay, let's say you've got this scenario. You've got a couple things going on, right? For our clients that are here, we've kind of done collaboration in one of two ways. It seems like in the past. One, you're using a SharePoint site to do a lot of collaboration, and you set it up such that you've got sort of these kind of private areas within a SharePoint site. Kind of give us an idea, Matt, maybe migration path from SharePoint to Teams. And then also the other scenario we might have is you've got, and you kind of mentioned, you kind of hit on this a little bit, was you got these teams set up for each individual sort of access maybe. How do we actually, or do you have ideas on how we might be able to migrate from existing teams into private channels and Teams, or existing SharePoint sites that are private into Teams, if that's appropriate for folks?
Yeah, so and we kind of touched on it when we said we can't really convert things. We can't move private channels from one area to, or one team to another. The migration path would be to create your private channel in your team, and then use some mechanism to, like you said, migrate the content in, whether it's using a migration tool from a third party, such as ShareGate or Microsoft. I should mention, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but Microsoft acquired a company called Mover, mover.io, which is a migration utility, a really powerful one that even lets you migrate from other document management platforms like Box and Dropbox and Google Drive. So Microsoft acquired that company and is giving away Mover to all Office 365 tenants. So it could be an opportunity to take your existing private content that's in a team site and create a private channel, then migrate those documents or content into the document library in that private channel.
Yeah, I mean, I think even with the current SharePoint migration tool, we would be able to do that, because we're just migrating from the files in particular. You're migrating from, let's say, on-prem 2010 or 2013 or something like that into, a modern SharePoint document library in reality. So
if it's on-prem SharePoint, yes. If it's
on-prem, exactly.
Right, because the SharePoint migration tool doesn't work from tenant to between tenants or
Tenant,
tenant
right.
to tenant.
Which I think is a good acquisition with Mover because we need that capability. We have more and more projects now or clients needing to move from one tenant to another tenant or within the same tenant.
Yeah.
So what's cool about that is, we used to recommend a lot ShareGate, which is basically a $4,000 price tag. And if Mover is going to be able to do that for us, then we can migrate stuff without having that as added on. Another question here we had from Roger, is there a plan for teams to work with external chat programs? And so Matt, maybe you want to take a look at tabs and some of the integration there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's appropriate for that as an answer, but.
There's connectors to possibly external chat programs. I doubt we'll ever see an integration between Teams and Slack, for example, or Teams and Facebook Business. I don't think that's going to happen. But Microsoft has the ability to add tabs to other cloud platforms. I don't know if any of them have a chat component. Now, there could be some integrations with developing Teams, a custom Teams app to do things. There's also integration points. Oh, I should mention, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but Microsoft also announced that they changed the name of Microsoft Flow, which is an automation platform that's probably most of you are available or are familiar with. Flow is now called Power Automate. And as part of the Power Platform is Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. So they're trying to be consistent with that. So there can also be some integration between, say, a external chat platform using Power Automate and Teams. So I'm not saying it's not possible. There's definitely there's some possibility to do that. Not sure if there's any pre-built. I don't know what live chat is. But yeah, good question. I don't have a great answer for you. Yammer. It's a Microsoft property, but Yammer can be used as an app. Can be added as a tab in Teams, so you can have kind of a threaded conversation for outside of the regular chat or conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, because you have the chat in Teams that are specific to a team or a channel, general channel or any of the other channels, private channel, standard channel, and then you've got Yammer. And you can integrate Yammer into that. I think where Roger's going is, for other chat platforms like Cisco or something like that.
Right.
How do they integrate?
Got it. So like IM, like an IM alternative.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's nothing that we can do with the Conversations tab or the Files tab here. These are fixed. So, this is a chat IM client, so which will replace Skype for Business. So, I don't think so, but there's nothing stopping you from adding a tab with a website or that can link to some other third party or building some automation or a custom tab in one way or another to an external chat platform.
I think Microsoft's vision for that would be obviously replacing it. What you guys have there. So I don't know if that's the correct answer for you, but it stinks because here's the thing, for them in particular, they have Cisco Jabber and they have the Cisco phone, so it kind of like it's all linked together. So anyway, I'm not sure there's a really good answer for that, Roger. Okay, so I think we'll kind of go ahead and wrap it up here. I've got questions from 3 of you guys. Dave, Keith, and Roger, all from the same bit. So I'm going to do a number generator here with a min of 1 and a max of 3, and it is going to be number 1. So Dave, we'll send you a link for a $25 gift card to Amazon. So thanks for asking questions, guys. Oh, and then last thing, yeah, we want to make sure you guys understand. We do have another tech talk coming in December. I know it's going to get kind of tight with Christmas and holidays and all that kind of stuff and having time off. So we're going to be doing it on December 18th at 10 a.m. And Michelle is going to be talking about, wait, what did we actually say you were, Michelle? I think you're a Power Apps Jedi. Is that the title
Ooh,
you're
Jedi's
selecting?
good.
We have a lot of options, and I feel like I will change as time goes on. But for now, we can be
That's
the Power Apps Jedi.
fair. Let's do Jedi. Yeah, she'll be
Not
talking
a
about
Star
Power
Wars.
Apps and specifically focusing on Canvas apps and what are we going to say here? So, I guess use cases, best practices, and when and how. So,
Awesome.
Sounds good.
cool.
Great.
All right, thanks guys for joining us. If you have any questions specifically for us, you know what to do. So, thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.